Hello there. How are you doing? Thanks for all your kind words about my dear mother. Just got done talking to her. I even called her up on live stream last night. They put a permanent pacemaker in, and they're gonna observe her and let her and my dad drive home in about 5 days. Monday's a holiday. They want to do some sort of checkup on her on this upcoming Tuesday. That'd be the best birthday present. My birthday's on the 5th of September, so I'm glad she's coming back for that. So that's wonderful. How are you all doing this evening? You always cringe when I hear somebody say, I'm going to speak my truth. When someone says my truth, that's like saying dry water. I've been debating now for decades. And one of the secrets that nobody talks about in debating is it's never about trying to change the mind of the person that you're debating. And I really don't care about debate. I care about wisdom and I care about truth. There's for every 5 people that are in the conversation or debate, there's 100 or 1,000 off in the shadows that are watching, eating cookies or crackers. So you're actually not trying to prove anything to the person or change their mind. All you've done is convince all the 1,000 people out here. That person could just say as ignorant as they ever were. But the people out here, if they've got more than 5 brain cells, they know what's going on. Everything on social media is that way too. A lot of people are afraid. They're especially afraid to jump in. And they're just I'm just going to let this play out. You know? And it's kind of like in the boxing ring. You got 2 people that are doing this number in the ring, and then you got everybody else eating popcorn out in the bleachers in the shadows. And debate is almost exactly like that. This video is about brain lock. I'm going to give you a couple prime examples, things I haven't been expert on, and things that are out there that are exactly like this. This is kind of a non-sequitur fallacy, and I even despise saying non-sequitur fallacy because people roll their eyes. This is incredibly important for you, okay? You don't have to know fallacies. You don't have to even know what a non-sequitur is, but I'm going to give you an example. And I don't even hear anybody in college talking about this. There's a lot of people out there that do this, and it's the biggest bear trap that ever was for mediocre minds, most especially weaker minds. They'll give you a string of facts, and they will make you presume that they're pointing towards that conclusion or that truth. And in fact, they're not. There's places like this on YouTube. I've been debating the so-called Buddhists for decades. And it's never about changing their mind. I have thousands of people contact me over the countless years saying, I saw what you said, you got the facts behind you, and your conclusion is accurate, and they followed the facts. The other guy has a string of facts, but they don't support their conclusion. There's a guy like this on YouTube, and I don't care what he is. This guy actually got mad skills, but I just use him as an example. This, of course, is what Nikola Tesla meant by people that could think deeply, but not clearly. And I promise you, this is going to be important and interesting, and if you could wrap your brain around this, this will help you a lot in life. People will present you a string of facts, and they say, everything I said is true, and you can go look them up, and you're But those facts don't support, and superficially, people don't understand this. And we were talking about this like a week ago on live stream. And I didn't even bring the guy up. He's on YouTube. He does computer repair. I'm going to use him as one example, because I did laptop repair for ages, and every computer company, and this is about laptops, is exactly the same way. A modern laptop computer has between 6 to 12 major components in it, and they pay a young, poorly paid person. They give them a few days training. They plug in a device, and what it does is it doesn't take a whole lot to determine which of 11 major components has failed. And people also, too, say that the right to repair. They use that. It's a huge error also. And this isn't about Apple computers. I don't I'm not backing Apple, okay? So this is not about Apple. I don't care what you think about Apple. This is about the fallacy involved there. If you own it, you got a screwdriver, you can take it apart. Sometimes there's special little star tools. Maybe it's a $12 tool you can get online. It's yours. There's nobody that's preventing you from opening it up. 99% of iPhone repair people are non-Apple people. They repair it on the cheap and they order third-party components or refurbs, and they'll fix it for you for a lot cheaper. Anyway, this guy, people bring him computers, and he's got mad skills, and he uses a microscope, and he'll desolder, which is like doing surgery on a mosquito. This guy will go, there's a $2 component like a failed resistor or microcapacitor. And of course, everybody does this. This is fine. I mean, he'll charge you $300, $500, whatever, and which is fine. Everybody would do this because it takes mad skills to do that. So, this person took this computer to Apple, and they wanted $1,200 to fix it because the main board had a fault. Fact. Well, it was only a $2 resistor. Fact. And I was able, and his bill, I don't care what his bill is, maybe $200 to $500, which I don't care. You got crazy skills, you're supposed to charge for crazy good skills, and he does have. And this is not about him, this is about, and I'll give you other examples of this, things that I'm an actual expert on, since I've repaired laptop computers. And I grew up building desktop computers. So instead of a $1,500, $1,200 main board, I did the job for $500, maybe $600. All it was a resistor. Well, the microscope that he uses, and which is not super expensive, he'll look up at an LCD display, which is pointing down through the microscope of the main board, for example. Diagnostics on which subcomponent is at fault is a serious skill in itself. Fact. It doesn't matter if it's IBM or Dell or Apple. There's none of these computer companies that do subcomponent repair. None of them do it, and there's a reason for that. See, these are all the facts that are left out. He'll give you a long list of facts, and he'll say, therefore, Apple is a bogus company because they wanted to charge you $1,200 to replace the whole main board, or $1,500. And I did it because it was only a $2 component. The bill was $200, $300, $400, whatever. Well, these are all facts, but the conclusion is incorrect. The conclusion he makes about Apple. Neither Apple nor IBM nor any of these other companies pay teenagers, 20-somethings to do this. So plug in this device, it'll tell you which one of 6 to 12 major components on a modern laptop. They're very, very, very simple inside. Just a very few main components. You get your battery, your main board. There'll be a sub-assembly for power, usually a sub-assembly for ports. Like there'd be a little board over here for your FireWire, your ports. And then there'll be the LCD, and then an LCD interface board. Basically, and there's a trackpad, and then the keyboard. Basically, that's all that you need to do. It takes them less than a week to train these people to plug this in, identify it, unscrew it. You've identified the major component. You unplug it. That takes very little training, very little time. People don't do subcomponent repair. It's not Apple or IBM. None of them do it. So everything this guy said is factual, but his conclusion is wrong. There's this neat little thing over here. I got a list of check marks. It'd be like this guy. All of these check marks are facts, and over here he's telling you it's pointing towards this truth. But over here we have all the things in question that he's not mentioned that actual point at the actual truth. See, this is the assumed truth over here, that he'll tell you all these facts will point at this assumed truth. But no, you left out all these hidden facts or unmentioned facts. And so everything collectively still points at only one truth. But his set of facts tell you it's pointing over here. But the collective facts points over here. And people really don't understand this. And it's not all that subtle. not to me anyway. It's extremely subtle to other people, because people were, like a week ago in live stream, roughly a week ago, they were saying, well, all these guys' facts are undeniable. I said, you're right. I said, this is why he's wrong. Well, how could he be wrong? All his facts are right. All his facts are right, but he's leaving out important facts. He has mad skills, but none of these people are going to train teenagers and 20-somethings with mad skills for, doing mosquito surgery, which the subcomponents on a main board or any board on a modern lab, there's a mosquito, smaller than a mosquito. Don't do mosquito surgery. That takes mad skills. They don't do it. It costs too much, too timely. You don't want to do subcomponent repair. No, 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 no. You find the major component's a problem, you yank it out. The same would be true of a car. I mean, someone could have a YouTube channel dedicated to car repair. And he said, well, he took it to the dealership, and he said the carburetor was $2,000 for parts and labor to replace. Why, the cracked carburetor, I took it out, and, I'm a professional welder, and I welded up that crack on the cracked casing, and I fixed it. Mad skills, all true. Places don't do this. Everything is about time. Time is money. There's no difference between time and money. So, this is where the guy's, he's hoodooed, and I don't care about him at all. I'm just stating the absolute truth. People believe this. Because, well, everything you said is true. It's like, yeah, everything you said is true, but his conclusion is utterly wrong. The same is true about the term that I'm the #1 expert in the world on, anatta, found within the Buddhist doctrine. And they'll incorrectly translate it. I know all 576 occurrences of it. It doesn't say no soul. It says A, B, C, X, Y, Z are not the soul. Rupa nata, Veda nata, Sana nata, Sankara nata, Vinya nata. This is not the soul, that's not the soul, that's not the soul. Nowhere in doctrine, and this is, by the way, common neti or via negativa, not this, not that, because theurgy or subjective synthesis, you can't point to it. It is the very self. It is the subject. You can't point to the subject because the subject is doing the pointing. So subjective synthesis or theurgy, i.e. transcendence, is about objective negation. This is the reason why the word of samadhi means to burn. You're burning away objectivity. This is where the Lord of the Rings, which got its source from the Kalevala, go look up the Kalevala, is about throwing the create, that pretty ring, my precious, back into the fires of Mount Doom. Is throwing the create back into the fires of the uncreate. It's, once you eliminate that, there's freedom. There's no longer attachments and desire. This is super, super, super ancient. Many facts don't tell the truth, and people don't teach this. Just as in, and if you look up in Britannia, Harvard Encyclopedia, Wikipedia, they'll say the same thing. They all say the same thing. I'm the #1 expert in the world on this topic. Literally. There is nobody that knows more about this topic than me. Literally. Buddhism is different than Hinduism. It taught that there was no soul. Specifically, its doctrine of anatta. Well, there's no such thing as a doctrine of anatta. There are 22 things that are not the soul. Anatta. Same Unicate 3.195. What does anatta mean? Anatta, Lord Venerable. What does the word anatta? This. Form is not the soul, feelings. Es via negativa. If I told you these different things are not the soul, would you make the conclusion that there is no soul? That's as stupid as me saying, this radio is not the signal, the buttons are not the signal, the battery is not the signal, the antenna is not the signal, the processor is not the signal. And you ignorantly, those are all factual, therefore there is no signal. No! It's the exact same thing. I've been dealing with this for decades now. Nobody on earth knows more about the topic than I do. Not allowed to edit Wikipedia, even with the facts. No, we can't allow this. No. It's like I'm the #1 expert in the world. You're saying I can't write part of this with facts? Not opinions, fact. No, can't do it. We're going to put it back the way it was, because this is agreed upon. This is the evil word consensus, by the way. There is no such thing as truth by consensus. Please, God, don't ever forget that. Anytime someone uses the word consensus, you should pucker like, ooh! Anytime I hear someone say, I'm gonna preach my truth. There's no such thing as your truth or my truth. There is the truth. This idea of speak your truth. I think that's a phrase now. Speak your truth. Ain't no such thing as your truth. There's your feelings, opinions, and beliefs. The exact same thing is true, as I said, about the computer repair guy. Long list of facts, incorrect conclusion. Same thing about Anata. Long lists of facts, incorrect conclusion. You know, the immortal is the soul in Buddhist doctrine. Original, pre-sectarian, the Nikayas. Digha, Nikaya, Majjhima, Samyutta, and Gautara Nikaya, Kudaku Nikaya. I know them all. I know every occurrence. 576, I know them all. There is no pejorative against the soul in original Buddhism. None! It doesn't exist! Period. And yet Wikipedia, Britannica, they all say the same thing. Consensus, by the way, which is evil. Buddhism teaches there is no soul, that's why Buddhism is different than Hinduism. By the way, did you know that 33% of the comments on Instafake, as I call it, Instafake or fake, they're made by bot farms? You ever seen videos of the bot farms? Like thousands and thousands and thousands of cell phones. They're all hooked up to one network. AI and other entities, they leave comments. They're all different channels. Did you know that over 1/3 of comments, and especially if it's a controversial topic, it's upwards of 60%. During 2019 to 2021, on stuff where people are trying to tell the truth, it was like 80% bots. I knew it was. Keeping people from thinking clearly is a prime goal of the reset. That's not my opinion, that's a fact, by the way. I'm not going to get into what a non-sequitur is. What I've been talking about is a version of a non-sequitur where the fallacy of an argument's conclusion doesn't necessarily logically follow the premise or the preceding statements or preceding facts, therefore making the argument invalid. My guy's whole channel is just an invalid fallacy. He's got mad skills. No one begrudges him what he charges for his mad skills, and I certainly wouldn't. Everything he said is factual, except for the conclusion, because no computer company does that. They don't do subcomponent repair. Too expensive, takes too much time. Of course, time is money, so there's no difference between time and money from the side of corporations. None of them do it. And that's not my opinion, that's a fact. My facts lead to the actual correct conclusion. My facts are the collective facts which are combined with his. My facts and his facts don't diverge. They're not divergent. I'm just adding on a whole other set of facts onto his that point towards the actual truth as opposed to the assumed truth. And this really confuses people, because I had hundreds of people in live stream that knew exactly the YouTuber we were talking about. But they didn't get it. It's like, well, how could he be wrong? You know, everything he said is true. It's like, you're right, and I'm going to tell you why he's wrong, even though every fact he said is truthful. Well, that seems impossible. It's not only not possible, it's very, very, very easy. The same is true of modern science. It's nothing but a pile of math and erroneous conclusions. They come up with circular arguments. They talk about waves and particles and dualities and time-traveling particles and parallel universe nonsense. There are no dualities in nature. There's no such thing as quantum. Quantum is a reference to a measure. A measure is not a thing in nature. A measure is an agreed-upon human standard, like miles, grams, inches, meters, kilometers, seconds, microseconds. These are all measures. I know the whole origin of the term quantum where it started, how it's used, why it was used, the people that heap themselves around it, and why they heap themselves around it. Because they're mathematicians. You know, the religion of mathematicians is numbers. And they want to quantize everything. If they can't quantize it, then they can't count it. And if they can't count it, it doesn't matter, and then the whole universe doesn't make any sense. They quantize fields, which you can't do, by the way. You could talk about joules, amps, volts, and so on and so forth over a period of time to quantize the field in an effect, but they have never defined the word field, never defined energy. They reified things that don't exist, most emphatically space and time. Space is not a thing at all. Absolutely not a thing at all. Time is only a measure. Time is not a thing at all either. Zeno's paradox, which confuses every modern scientist, is about the fallacy and the holographic nature of time and measure. Of course, time is a measure. You can say time and measure. It's like saying wet and water. They're both references to the same thing. It blows my mind. Someone was asking me an email about Zeno's paradox. Like, the Zeno's paradox is reducibly simple. Zeno's paradox is about pointing out the illusory nature of time and measure. You know, you divide it, and you keep dividing and keep dividing it, and then the runner never reaches the finish line. It's the whole point of showing you the absurdity of a measure and of time. It amazes me people don't get that. Modern science is exactly like the computer repair guy. They have a long list of math and facts, which is fine. I love facts. Nature, by the way, is not painted in math at all, rather in pressure mediation, which is not my premise. It's an undeniable ultimate truth. I don't care about assumed truths. I care about actual truths, things that withhold the entire picture. Modern science also, too, assumes this here and that there, which is also, too, impossible in nature. You can't have it this here and that there when everything in nature is unified. There's no such thing as this here and that there. There are different spokes on the same wheel, and all the spokes point towards the center. Unification. Got spoke here, spoke B here, spoke C here. You have different spokes, but the center must hold. Modern science, the center doesn't hold at all. This is actual brain lock. And it is a subtle and deceptive and devious way by which to confound the mediocre minds and all of the lesser minds. Also, too, never ever confuse empirical knowledge with wisdom. Your head could be full of facts, like, oh, this guy's a PhD in science, theoretical physics. It's like, yeah, his head is full of facts, but he can't see the forest for the trees. He doesn't understand unification at the most base level. You know, he's counted all the toothpicks up on the 4th floor, and he knows who made the furniture on the 3rd floor. But he doesn't understand the foundation and where everything is unified. I don't care about the toothpicks on the 5th floor, and who made the furniture on the 4th floor, or what color the drapes are on the 2nd floor in this multi-storied house of the universe. I care about where everything is unified. That's the only thing that's important to know. Once you understand the point of unification, then everything else becomes clear. When you're standing on spoke A or B or C or D, you only understand yourself, your particular spoke, and the adjacent spoke. If you're standing at the center, it's easy to see all the spokes unify. I could see all the spokes, or most of them, you know. If I don't have eyes like a lizard, but if I did, I could see all the spokes at the same time. And then, you know, this is where the big picture comes in, and you can see the unification of everything, because the center must hold. So don't get involved in brain lock. So, well, this guy has a long list of facts. He can't be wrong. No, he's wrong. Well, his facts are facts. Yes, they are. But the conclusion that he tells you they point to, don't point to that. It's a type of non-sequitur, which isn't important. But understanding and recognizing it is important. don't care what you call it. You don't have to call it anything. It's like, I recognize this. You got a pile of facts, but your conclusion is specious. There's a great word nobody uses anymore. Specious, which is a fancy way of saying malarkey. Anyway, I'll catch you in live stream. I hope you like these videos. I appreciate all your kindly concern towards my dear mother on her path to recovery after getting a permanent pacemaker installed yesterday. And lux et veritas. Thank you.